On.
Hello, my name is Zane Baranowski. I'm a certified nutritionist, and I am the National Sales Manager for Harmonic Enterprises. I have the pleasure today to be with Dr. Guy Devon,
Morning, Zane.
and we're going to be explaining the historical and energetic nutritional benefits of Harmonic's exclusive monatomic or ormus minerals, also known as the Ethereum products.
Great, thank you, Zane. It's just such a pleasure and honor to be here. And again, my name is Dr. Guy Devon. My PhD is in nutritional science, certified clinical nutritionist, color therapist, sound therapist, Reiki master, and a lot of other healing modalities. And my goal in my own personal health, having been a Vietnam vet, was really important to discuss some of the things that the Harmonic Enterprise products really do and facilitate, especially from a toxic load in the body, from a chemical toxic load in the body to an energetic toxic load in the body that we all get exposed to. And some of the things that we take for granted in that experience of just going through our life, the impinging upon electromagnetic fields, air pollution, water pollution, processed food, these kind of things, and how incredible Harmonic Enterprises products are at moving your body to a whole nother level to deal with the everyday stressors that we all face. And so with that, I'm so impressed to come to this company. I'm so excited about the products. And Zane, maybe you can give us just a little bit of an idea about kind of the historical piece of how this all got started.
The founder of this company, Pat Bailey, I had met when we had both worked for the same company. This was about 30 years ago, so I know I'm dating myself. But what he had heard, basically back then, there wasn't the internet, and we didn't even have fax machines, at that point in time. But he'd been hearing about an Indian woman on the radio up in San Francisco. We were in the San Francisco Bay Area, and she was talking about how she had discovered this herb, and it was up in the northern Sierra Mountains. She had discovered this herb that she was making into a tea, and she was successfully treating people with HIV. Now at that time, it's just a little bit different now, but at that time, the idea that you could help strengthen or even heal somebody who had HIV was completely unheard of, even in the natural field. And we know that's changed over the past 20, 25 years. So he tracked down this Indian woman, and she was speaking specifically about the product we have here. It's called Chamay Rose. And it's the root of a bush that grows in a very specific area of the Sierras. It's actually very rare. And they had this conversation, and of course, Patrick being an herbalist and fascinated by the idea of something that would be helpful specifically for something like HIV. And then towards the end of their conversation, she says, "Oh, and by the way, did I ever mention to you about the mineral deposit that this bush grows in?" And she said, "Yeah, it's very strange. It's this multicolored white, pink, red, and black mineral deposit." And at that time, this was back in the late 80s, early 90s, we had started to hear about this concept of monatomic or ormus minerals, and the general terminology was white powder of gold. David Hudson was lecturing about, and it just kind of, the light bulb went off in Pat's head, and he went, "Could I come and see this?" And so she said sure. So they went out, and he took samples of all the minerals, and of course with the monatomic or the ormus, we're talking more about their energy fields and about their electromagnetic effects. It's not necessarily the content, the actual minerals themselves. So, of course, Pat being a scientist, he's sending it to a lab, what's the mineral composition, so you know exactly all the minerals are in it, and there just nothing really stood out until he started handing out samples, especially of the Ethereum gold. And I got a sample, I remember, and there was just hundreds and hundreds of people that we knew in the greater San Francisco Bay Area that we had given samples out to, that after 3, 4, 5, 7, 14 days, we called, I want some more of that. How can I buy that? Well, what are you feeling? And so you started to get this pattern of well, I'm meditating better, or I've had writer's block and I started taking the Ethereum Gold, and I just finished my book in 3 days, and I haven't been able to write a chapter in 2 years.
Which one is that?
Yeah, which one is that? And so we began to see that there was definitely a noticeable benefit, but it was much more about how people felt, how they were sleeping, how they were viewing the world, their attitude, their creativity, their calmness but focused. I remember I had given a sample to one of my friends that was a semi-pro golfer, and he, immediately after his first 2 or 3 days on it, because they'll play 18, 36 rounds a day as they're practicing. He's like, I really putt well on that product, because you could, your mind-body connection and everything. And it really didn't start to take hold until, of course, Pat went to market with it, founded Harmonic Innerprizes. We're a couple of groups that do brainwave research. We're noticing dramatic changes from pulling the brain from being in a beta or a theta brainwave state into an alpha state. Now, anybody out there that knows about alpha brainwaves, these are the optimal, they're the good ones, so to speak. Those are the waves that all the most intelligent people in the world dominate. They have much more, you can stay calm and focused, everything is present. A lot of people talk about intuition, or even your third eye, or your ability for that spiritual, the mind-body spiritual connection.
And in that case, for people who are meditators, it's virtually impossible to stop your mind. But what is possible is to get your mind focused. And I think that's the real key when you get into these alpha waves, that the brain is in a very coherent field of energy, so that the mind falls to the background. Doesn't necessarily stop, but it falls to the background to really feel into that bigger quantum field of possibility of what's available to you.
Well, and that's what's fascinating about, to me, there's many fascinating aspects about this, but we're talking about a natural mineral deposit that was created by a meteor strike approximately 12,000 years ago, and this is all independently verified through UC Davis. And so there's nothing else that is done. We don't add anything to it. The energy that it has, the pattern that it has, is unique to itself. And what these brainwave researchers had told me was the unique part of it is that what it does is it takes your right and left hemispheres of your brain. As we know, one's creative and one's analytical. And if you think of what we're talking about, focus or oneness or one-mindedness, a lot of that chatter is because your analytical and your creative sides are not communicating very well.
It's like the work that Monroe did at the Monroe Institute, what she calls hemisync, which is literally the syncing of the left and right brain.
Right.
And most people, the very creative types have the right brain out of proportion, and the very analytical people have the left brain out of proportion. Optimal health and healing for us as individuals is if we can get those two places in sync, and then we have a better possibility of uptaking nutrients into the body, getting better utilization, and creating optimal health.
Absolutely, and so that was what really the effect was. It wasn't so much that the product was increasing the alpha brainwaves, it's that it was balancing the communication between the right and left hemispheres. And when those two were balanced, the body naturally would have this increase in alpha brainwaves.
Great. So that's a little bit about the history of how all this came together. Why don't we just take a quick pause here for just a minute, and then we'll go actually into the specifics of some of the products and how beneficial they may be.